Now hear the gospel. Jesus said, "Ask and it will be given you. Search and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds. And for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. Is there anyone among you who, if your child asks for bread, will give a stone? Or if your child asks for a fish, will give a snake? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Author in heaven give good things to those who ask them? In everything do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets."
In my experience, a child's first crisis of faith happens around age 6 or 7, old enough to have internalized the notion of prayer being something where you ask God for things, and young enough to expect that those requests, those needs, will be met. I have counseled many small children through this first crisis of faith as a children's and youth minister. It's one of the harder parts of my job. My 6 and 7-year-olds pray for things like a puppy or a kitten, closet full of presents, or to never see a spider in their house again because they're scary. But then they wake up yet another day and there's no puppy, there's no kitten. The hall closet remains full of only coats, and spiders continue to get into the house and pose an existential threat. If God loves us unconditionally, is all-powerful and all-knowing, as the church teaches, why the heck isn't God giving us what we ask for and need? Jesus straight up tells us in tonight's gospel reading that everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds, and yet I have been personally praying for a pony for as long as I can remember, and still no pony. The prayer has changed as I've grown. I used to just expect a pony in my backyard, just like in my dreams. Now I pray for life and economic circumstances that will allow me to one day purchase my very own dream horse, and maybe also a backyard suitable to put that dream horse in. Jesus, I have been asking for a long time. Where is my pony? I think that unanswered prayers for physical, tangible things lead to such a deep crisis of faith for children and, let's face it, also adults, because these prayers remain concretely unanswered. It's not like we asked for bread and were given a stone. We weren't given anything at all. There are certainly answers I can come up with that the kids will understand and mull over, but sometimes the unanswered prayers in our lives are so big and full of so much feeling that reading parts of the Bible like this actively hurt. I was recently part of running a class on the foundations of prayer, part of what I've been doing on Thursday nights, and one of the participants was a woman whose son was an addict for over 20 years. Her son died about a year ago. She was so angry at God for not answering her prayers, while the prayers of other mothers whose sons also suffered from addiction were answered. She was so angry she gave up on prayer entirely. She almost gave up on God too, but through grace managed to hold on to a belief that maybe God was still with her in the midst of it all. I've been thinking about this woman for weeks, thinking about prayers I've prayed that have gone unanswered. I've prayed for peace, for justice, for change, for the world to turn closer to the new Jerusalem God has promised us. I have prayed for my ongoing low-level panic attack to just stop already and let me live my life. It's been a long 2 weeks. I've prayed for things I really, really need. The answers, the good gifts of God, are not always forthcoming. Lent isn't really helping the situation. The hymn boards at Grace, where I work, still say Lent 2 on them from last March. Lent 2 is this Sunday. I imagine that many of you, like me, have prayed for an end to the pandemic, for better leadership, better care for the vulnerable, and for those who don't think the rules apply to them to shut up and sit down, or better yet, to wear their masks and stay home. But it seems that the prayers continue to go unanswered. We're not going to wake up tomorrow in a world where over 500,000 Americans are still alive because their government and poor leadership did not condemn them to death. My pony will not be on my patio trying to eat the hedges, but God is still listening, I think, even if God's hands are tied sometimes by that pesky free will God created in us humans. I wonder tonight, what prayers do you have that feel unanswered? Do you have prayers that hurt? I know that I do.